Michael, it'll be a good time to settle this matter once and for all.
Once and for all. All right. Okay. So, look, we've been asking you to tell us whether or not you think your employers should allow you time off work for prayers. Okay. And we've also been asking you whether churches should be organizing programs during working hours. And you know what? Since McDan made his comment about churches affecting productivity, we've been wanting to hear from the church. Well, today we have someone who is a great representative of the church. Dr. Michael Boadi Nyamekye is the General Overseer of Maker's House Chapel International. Yeah, I mean, I don't exaggerate when I say you would certainly rank him among the top 10
Absolutely.
Pastors in Ghana. Dr. Michael Boadi Nyamekye, good morning to you, sir.
My brother, good morning. How are you, sir?
Very, very well. And thank you so much for making some time for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Well, when you call, it's almost like you are being summoned. So.
Oh, dear. You're very kind. I appreciate that. So, I mean, let's go straight to the question. I mean, would you say that churches are negatively affecting productivity in Ghana?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you. I also want to greet all your listeners and everybody, MFR and everybody there. The role of the church, actually, first of all, let's appreciate what the church does. The church is a spiritual institution put together called the Ecclesia, the called out ones, people that are pursuing or in pursuit of a particular faith tangent. And so what the church stands for and what the church represents, it's very antithetical to some of the assertions that are being made. Of course, churches can get into social stuff, but that is not their primary responsibility or primary duty. So trying to mix both of them is really not the way to go. However, when it comes to the productivity of every nation, I don't think yourself, Kojo, will get up 6 a.m., 5 a.m., go to the studio. Whilst he's in the studio, if Kojo, no matter how devout Kojo is to, say, the Catholic Church, the Pentecostal Church, Charismatic Church, if you're having a meeting or a program at 7:15, Kojo is going to abandon the console and go and sit there. And so normally people fail to realize that when it is working hours, I mean, we don't have services during working hours, but the people who have service for working hours, those who go for such services are people who, in practice, are not working, or they are controlling their own spaces, like entrepreneurs, people who do their own stuff. But people who are in the formal sector and all of that, they normally don't participate in services during work hours. Productivity has never been affected by spirituality because according to even those who have written about separating the church and the state and all of that, they will let you know that production is normally affected by the leadership of the company, whether it's you are looking at the workplace culture, you are looking at the training that you give to your people, work-life balance, all the things that you do, those are the things that affect productivity. Somebody's spirituality, every human being is triune or tripartite. You are a body, you are a spirit, you are a soul. And so if somebody is feeding their spiritual needs, you cannot say that it is affecting how they do their things physically, because even the Bible speaks in that light. So, Kojo, I won't say that churches affect productivity negatively. It is the culture of the organization, the training programs available, the leadership of the people, say the bosses there. Those are the things that can affect productivity. But churches, in no way would church affect productivity. I don't believe churches can do that.
I mean, I think what you're describing is what we all expect. However, I mean, if I may point out some of the things that we do know to be happening in reality, for your comment. I mean, we know that there are people who shut down the shops that they have been employed to run to go for church programs. We know that there are people who spend 6, 7 hours at night.
Before you continue
yes.
on that line, I
Right.
mean, if I employ you, you know, I teach at the business school, I teach entrepreneurial development.
That's right.
I teach strategy.
Yeah.
If I employ you to work for me and I'm paying you 8 to 5, and I come to say the office and you are not there, and I ask you where are you, or I mean it's not sick leave, there's not something emergency that put you there, and you tell me that you are in church praying for the company, I think that I'll fire you.
Okay.
And I'll fire you not because you are praying, I'm firing you because you don't understand work-life balance. You don't understand that I'm not paying you to pray, I'm paying you to work. And if I needed the services of a prayer warrior, I would have recruited one. And so if I've recruited you to be a marketing expert or a marketing officer, a finance officer, I could have recruited a priest to be a prayer warrior if I thought that was the need of my firm or my establishment. If that is not the need, and I employed you to keep track, do customer service, do monitoring and evaluation, do any of them, and you are not there, and you said I'll fire you not because you're praying is not my problem. You could have prayed, but not at the time that you are working. Because if it's time to work, you work. You give unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Doc. However, I mean, does it not then suggest, because you've said yourself that someone who would do such a thing clearly doesn't understand work-life balance? Does
Absolutely.
that not? Yeah,
and that's not the duty of the church.
But does that not mean that a church that organizes an event during working hours is also neglecting work-life balance?
Because you know, I beg to differ, because the church will not put a gun on anybody's head to attend their programs.
But why organize it during working hours anyway?
What of those who are unemployed, who probably, if they sit at home and they don't have anywhere going, they might be depressed, and so the purpose of organizing programs, they differ. They are not asking everybody to come, so people are invited to come. You have to now check your schedule. If it fits the bill, then you show up. If it doesn't, I don't think any church will go into any of the corporate spaces and ask people, we're having programs, shut down and come. No, they won't do that. And please don't forget, there are people who, because of unemployment, they are so depressed that becomes a way out. That becomes a place where their hope is being renewed. So most of the people, I would rather look at it as merchants of hope, because they are there, and the people, not only are they spiritually energized, but they are feeling a sense of hope that it's going to be well, because of course they are not getting. I would prefer somebody who is unemployed going to church to pray than going to a joint for 225 or Wooden Red. So go to Wooden Red.
My two Wooden Red. But Doc, you see. So now you see where the debate is now evolving to, because if you accept that a person who would leave their work to go to such a program, right, organized by the church, obviously is doing the wrong thing. And if you suggest that the church would only organize such a program for those who are, for example, unemployed, and so people that they have an alternative,
spaces,
an alternative to something destructive that they might do with their time, right? So if that is the purpose of the program, then do churches not have a responsibility, first of all, to explain clearly the purpose of the program, who they are targeting it with, and also to admonish any church member who leaves their job to attend such a program? Shouldn't they chastise or even turn away such a church member?
I get where you're coming from. However, people move into church in large numbers. You will not be able to vet everybody coming in. And so you just have to now teach your congregants, or the congregation need to be aware. For instance, what is written in the book of Proverbs 22, verse 29, have you seen a man diligent in his business? He will stand before great people, not mean men. So even the Bible admonishes that people should be diligent with what they do. And so from the pulpit, that is clearly supposed to be communicated. However, when people are coming in, you'll not be able to vet everybody. Where do you work? Have you left your job? Why are you here? That is not really the work of the church. The work of the church, or the sole purpose of every gathering, they advertise what they are going to do. People get interested in what they are doing. They sometimes manage their time to be able to get there. But under no circumstance should your pursuit, like if you're employed by another person and the person is paying you for a service, you don't render the service and you expect to be paid or expect to be promoted or do well in that space or field. That doesn't work. I mean, no church encourages that. And every church, all the churches that I know, they admonish that people should be diligent in their businesses. They should go about what they do with diligence and greater commitment and honesty, with integrity of purpose and heart. But there is no church that I believe will tell people, even if you are working, stop work and come and do these things. No. Because there is a place. Because the truth is that there is a place for the things of God, and there is a place for the things of man. And God will never do for you what you can do for yourself. God will never come and run your shop for you. God will never come and take inventory of your business for you. Those are things that you are supposed to do, either electronically, mechanically, whatever you have to do, you have to do that. Because God did not save your soul for you to lose your mind. At the end of the day, you have bills to pay, you have responsibilities to take care of. And so there are so many things that you ought to do that He gave you the brains for, that you are supposed to put your life together. And so nobody is going to admonish that you leave the plow of what you're doing just to stand in wait and pray that God will bring you customers. And when the customers come, you are not even there to attend to them. So that is an imbalance. That is an abomination before God.
So would you advise your fellow church leaders, your fellow shepherds, your fellow pastors and overseers, that they should directly preach and teach their flock, their congregation, that if church activity will affect their productivity, they should stop the church activity and focus on being productive?
What you are doing is you are just stating the obvious, because most church pastors are doing that. Most of the pastors that I know and I have close relationship with, they do that. They do that already. But again, on the back of what you just, the narrative you gave, productivity and spirituality are two different things. In fact, if somebody is very spiritual and spiritually sensitive, it should even have a positive impact on their productivity. Should have a direct relationship, because then if you are super spiritual, you understand that life is supposed to be compartmentalized, that when it's time to pray, you pray. When it's time to work, you work. When it's time to love on your family, you love on them. You don't live fluidly. You can't be very fluid in those spaces. You have to be boxed up and compartmentalize your life. And I believe that every church leader who is worth his salt will tell you that people need to have planned lives, balanced lives, and dedicate themselves to what they do. For instance, I am a full-time lecturer at the university, senior lecturer at the School of Graduate Studies at the UPSA.
Yeah.
When it's time to go and teach my class, I don't think you can put a program there for me to attend. Because that is my work. I'm paid to do that.
Yeah.
When I'm done, I can pray later. I have 24 hours in a day. If I divide it into 8, and your employers are only asking you to work for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So even if you divide it 8, you have 3 units. And so you choose 1 unit of the 8 to work. Use the other 8 to rest, read, do all that, socialize, do all of that. But the time that you are being paid to work, it's even an indictment on your own integrity. That the time that somebody is paying, that is cheating to start with. I'm paying you to work. and you are not sticking to the rules of engagement, and you ask me to pay you, that's broad day robbery and corruption. That's not the way it's supposed to go.
That is
and I
interesting.
think that all the churches they do that. But productivity in itself, like I said, Kojo, is not affected by somebody's
spirituality.
prayer.
Well,
It's affected by other things like the leadership because if the leader is strong, most of these things will not happen.
Doc, there are those who might differ. I mean, you've said that you think it's obvious that every good leader worth his salt in a church would advise his people not to sacrifice, their productivity for spirituality. However, we do know that there are those who will stay up for hours at night, joining all kinds of prayer programs on radio, TV, and so forth, and then come to work and be dozing off at work. That is a direct example of their spirituality affecting their productivity. And this is happening in thousands and thousands and thousands.
Because you are
We hear these
confusing
stories every day.
religiosity and spirituality. Religiosity and spirituality, you don't need to do much. That is when somebody has been able to attain a point of synchronicity between the spirit and that of the divine.
So those who stay up at night for these programs are just religious, not spiritual.
Most people. In the book of St. Matthew's Gospel, the Bible talks about even vain repetitions and all of that. If you're praying the same thing 1,000 years, the same prayer, it is one of the two. It is either you don't believe that God heard you, or you don't believe that the God who heard could answer, and so you need to do a lot more petitions. Most of the miracles Jesus did, the prayers were simple. Father, I thank you for A, B, C, D, and it was done. And so being spiritual is very different. I'm not talking about religious people. I'm talking about you being spiritual. Spirituality can even affect productivity positively, whether you are a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Christian, a Baha'i. A good spiritual person understands the rules of engagement. That's what I mean. But however, there are people who stay up at night, not because they want to stay up at night. Maybe some of them have insomnia. I can hear MFA laughing.
Dog, you're shouting at me this morning.
Yeah, some people have insomnia. So it is not that they just want to stay up at night. They have insomnia. They can't sleep at night. And I think if somebody can't sleep at night and the person is engaging in a form of, say, religious activity or religious program, you can begrudge such a person.
Shouldn't they rather just take a sleeping pill so they can work diligently?
The MFL and the rest will tell you that sometimes melatonin doesn't work.
Melatonin, 20 grams is not working. I tried it yesterday.
So, Kojo, you are trying to make light of heavy matters.
Actually, I think they are very, very weighty matters indeed. I don't think they are light at all.
They are weighty. Yeah. I don't underestimate. I'm just saying that some people are having challenges at night. That's why they are not sleeping. Because if somebody really has a deadline and the person has been through a very long day, the person will even sleep in the couch and not even go to the bed. So I'm thinking that there are so many things that are leading to that. If the people are not having, most of the people that you find them do most of the religious acts at night, there might be so many things. Maybe I have to, because you have said, I'll do maybe a paper or a survey on it and share that data with you.
It will be interesting.
Yeah, I will do that for you. I'll engage my class to get something done for you.
Doug, let's go to the beginning. MFI here, Doug. Let's go to the beginning of our conversation. I want to understand if there's a bit of fairness here. For example, you of course you pastor a church, and you want to send a message to the church at a particular time, and you're hoping that the entire congregation will receive that message fairly and probably squarely. And you decide to want to organize a church program, for example, 3 days breakthrough for marriage, and you're hoping that everybody in that church that's looking to be married, for example, would come for this program. Some of them are working, some of them are not working. And we're hoping that these programs and the days that are organized will be for people who are not working, because I've been learning about work and church life balance. How then will this be fair for somebody who goes to your church and is in dire need of that particular program at that time and is still working? How will they assess this message that you have received from God and you want to share to your congregation?
Fortunately now, the media landscape and digital footprints have made so many things available. The person might not have to be there physically. The person doesn't even have to join virtually whilst they are working. They can always do a playback. They can get the tapes and consume them. They can go and watch Facebook, YouTube, and all of that later on. They don't have to be there at the time that they are working. That's the first thing that I have to say. The second one is, why don't you put it after work? After working hours. That's number 2. Number 3 will be, why don't you organize such a program on a holiday? So if you are if you want to empathize with your people and think with them, and you want to help take most of these boxes, I think the planning should be thorough, so that you don't leave anybody out, just as you're saying. But if it's planned well, and you make sure that you put them in spaces where somebody might even want to attend, but the person is living in Kazakhstan. The person cannot come. That's why now, Joy is there. It can be on radio. They can even listen to it and tune in radio. All of that is available. So we have to be flexible. The new media has made most of these things possible for people to benefit from such programs without having to be there directly or at that particular time.
So I'm guessing you would say that Dr. Macaulay is actually right to say that
I won't say that he is right, because he's saying churches are affecting productivity. That's what he said.
Well, he also did add that a person who would leave their work to go to a church program is not serious.
No, the moment you go on the tangent, using a big brush to paint, you are in error. Don't forget, I'm an academic. What is this? What's the empirical evidence to back what he's saying? You just assuming. You can't
you
just
have made that argument today.
A blanket statement out there that churches are. That's that, because I say Richard doesn't have programs during work hours. So is Richard affecting the Catholic Church doing that? So you might have a few things happening, but you don't use a big brush to paint everybody. You don't do that.
But Doc, even you have made the argument today that those who would leave work to go to a church program are not serious.
I agree. I'm not backing off that. What I'm saying is that is true. Nobody should be doing that, because you are being paid to work. But the moment you use that blanket statement that churches are, you can say some churches, you can say a few churches, you can say a few of the charismatic new Pentecostal churches. You can do that, but just to use that, put everything in one basket and just throw it out there is not the way to go.
Okay. At the beginning of the conversation, we stated, and we believe correctly, that you are definitely one of the top 10 pastors in Ghana. So just before you leave us, I think we'll give you the opportunity to speak to the people of the church. Okay, to speak to the church, advise them on this issue. What should be our way forward?
Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity. I want to first of all make a statement on your program that you are my brother that looks for me only when you want to talk to me this way.
Hey.
Oh my goodness.
Let me put it out there.
Bullet has come inside. Hey.
But you have been throwing shades at the church. So.
Oh goodness.
Now I'm a
No, for Kojo alone would excuse him to come to church, even if he has to work.
No. You'll come and beat me up. But I mean, these are good conversations to be had in any nation that wants to develop. There is nothing wrong with it. I don't want the church to feel offended by the statements that was made by Magdan. Neither do I want the people from Magdan's quarters to also get aggrieved by some of these rebuttals. Because in every society that really wants to develop, most of these things are needed. We need frictions. We need to hit heads together. At the end of the day, we are looking for the progress and prosperity of the land. Now, I want to say this, that the church has a major role to play. The church happens to be the moral conscience of the society. And being the moral conscience of the society, it is our duty to tackle or to touch on. We don't have the state backing or the powers to execute so many things, but at least as the moral conscience, we have to be able to preach the gospel of industry, like what the Bible will say, go to the ant, consider his ways and be wise. Because the ant believes in industry, the ant believes in savings, the ant believes in saving against the rainy day, the ant believes in leadership and structure. So that is what we are supposed to do as a moral conscience, teach against corruption, teach against the things that are all deemed as vices to our development and progress as a people. So I want us as a people, everybody that can hear me, whether you are a lay preacher or a full-time pastor, I want everybody that can hear me to understand that all the people God has brought around us, we are supposed to affect them positively, to be the light of their world, to be the salt of their world. And they have to lead by example. We have to let them understand everybody that is there. And if you are a Christian, you have to know that if you are in an office space or a corporate space, you are the light of that space, you are the salt of that space. So if we are talking about diligence, you should be the example. If we are talking about honesty, you should be the example. If you are talking about integrity, you should be an example. Some time ago, Kojo, I was marking scripts of my students, and a student did not do so well. But what irritated me was that at the tail end of the answer booklet, the guy had written, Doc, I know you are a pastor, so temper justice with mercy.
Oh wow!
And I was wondering, a pastor did not teach you, an academic did. And I'm not expecting angels to come and write the paper. I expected you to read and pass.
Yeah.
And we have to let people to know that they have to be in partnership with God. They have to do their part, even though they are praying, even though they are fasting, even though they are coming to church and there is a partnership between them and God. And so they should do their part and allow God to do his part as well. Those are things that we as a people and as leaders and church leaders, we need to teach and help people appreciate that they should be examples. You are an example, Joe is an example, MFI is an example. People should look at you and be attracted to what you believe in. So that, if you can be a Christian and be successful, if you can be, I know a lot of students who have come to our school because they met me and said, but you could be a pastor and still be like this, then I can also do it. I know people, pastors now who are doing PhDs because they saw that you can combine, and now they are doing it. Can you also be an example in your workspace? That you can be an accountant that is not stealing, you can be a minister that is really for the people, you can be a politician that loves on the people, so that it's not just about allotting top spots and front row seats to people, but we teach them how they should live in harmony with society and also push people up and help people to achieve all the societal goals. Ghana is a beautiful country God has given us, and I entreat everybody that whatever we can do to ensure that this nation develops, we should do it, whatever we can do. If it will mean sacrificing more, if it will mean whatever it will take.
That's
whatever
a
it will
powerful
take.
exhortation there by Dr. Michael Boadi Nyamekye, General Overseer of Makers House Chapel International. Doc, I really appreciate you making time to speak to us.
And you owe me. So
I know. I know. I know.
To make peace.
I promise I will.
Thank you. That's my love to MFI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc.
Indeed.